Hey everyone, so in today's video, I am super excited because I just get to sit here and talk about some of my new favorite one and done shadows that are also quite affordable, which I know is probably a relief for some of you because recently I talked about this shadow from Dior. I'll leave it linked down below. It is the shade Beige Mitza, and this has been one of my new favorites of the year. I talked about it over on Instagram. A lot of you guys have been going crazy over it, which I can obviously relate. I really enjoy it. But you know what? It's a little bit up there in price, and one of you reached out to me on Instagram and let me know about a formula at a very affordable price that has some really, really gorgeous shades. Now I want to get in front of the question, is there a dupe for this? I don't believe that there is. I think that these are beautiful in their own right. I absolutely love the way that this eyeshadow that I have on my eyes looks every single time. It looks and performs as if it is expensive. I want to go out and try more shades of this, but anyway, let's just get these shadows out in the open. These are the Sephora Collection Colorful eyeshadows, and here I've got 5. Yeah, I've got 5 here. Shade that I have on my eyes, which I do think is my favorite, is the shade Choco Excess. It's the shade 297. I have just been absolutely obsessing over these eyeshadows, and I'm excited to talk through them with you. So I have noticed just from the shades that I have 3 different formulas, and we all know, I think by now, that within a range of items, especially with something like an eyeshadow, there's probably going to be little different formulas, but in particular, I think it's important to note that the textures within these shadows are different. But let's first start off with the creamiest texture. If you guys are familiar with the Cosmetics cream eyeshadows, this formula is by far the closest that I've experienced to that formula. That formula is very stiff. It has this kind of dreamy, creamy thing going on. It's not like a putty, like super shock shadow thing. It is just very, very stiff, metallic, and creamy. So these are insanely high shine metallics. So I have 2 different shades here. I have the shade Shock Choc and the shade To the Moon and Back. And Shock Choc is definitely my favorite out of the 2. This shade is insanely beautiful. The pigmentation is even. Again, that creaminess to this product makes it so easy to spread. You can use this as a one and done. In the demo, I did use both just so you can get an idea of both shades. But there is something about just like a flat metallic champagne to me that I just don't reach for anymore, because I do have other like high shine wet effect lighter like champagne colors like Space Cowboy, for example, from Urban Decay. Like that's what I really like to reach for as far as adding a brightness to my look. I'm not really reaching for a straight metallic champagne so much anymore, though I will say that if you are someone that enjoys it, this formula is absolutely gorgeous. But the shade Shock Choc is definitely one that I would highly recommend. Again, just the texture, how easily it goes onto the finger on a brush, super reminiscent of something like Oyster Pearl from Charlotte Tilbury. If you guys like these shades that have more of a chocolatey base with a taupey kind of shift to it, you're gonna like this shade. Wear time I also find to be better than the ones from Cosmetics. So if you are familiar with those cream shadows from Cosmetics, because these I do feel are slightly thinner than those, I think that they wear better. And they're also in just more generally wearable shades. I am planning an upcoming save or splurge video. I'm sure that you will see a comparison between these 2 shades and the shadows from Cosmetics, so be on the lookout for that. But this formula is definitely a winner in my book and closest to a cream eyeshadow formula out of the formulas that I'm going to talk about. Now the next shadow and texture within this range I noticed in the shade Choco Excess, which is the shade that I have on my eyes today. I did take a touch of a shade I'm about to talk about, the shade First Light, but really not much. This shade is absolutely gorgeous. Has that beautiful, soft, wet effect. It's not as super wet as some of my other eyeshadows. I do have another wet eyeshadow video coming very soon. I know I've been saying that, but you guys know that I like to come out with those videos and have a demo, a good natural light demo for every single product that I talk about. This formula is very like densely pressed in the pan, and it is closer, I would think, to a powder formula, but it kind of does the thing in the finger. If you guys are familiar with the Natasha Denona Chroma Crystal top coats, this kind of does a very similar thing. When you press it down, it melts a little bit, and the formula itself, it is a powder, but it has a touch of like a wet, cool feeling to it. But what it ends up translating and doing on the eyes is it just gives you this very, very soft color. It's not going to be insanely rich metallic the way that this shadow over here is, but it has this gorgeous, very soft wetness to it. Again, the pigmentation isn't quite as intense, but as like an everyday wash of color with that gorgeous shift of wet sparkle, this is definitely one that I would recommend. Please bear with me here because I want to kind of include little comparisons as I go. This does remind me of the Ulta Bouncy Cream eyeshadows, not in texture, but in the finish. So if you want one that is more like a powder rather than that kind of squishy cream texture that the Ulta Bouncy Cream shadows have, maybe check this one out in specific. I'm on the hunt for other shades that have this formula because out of all of the formulas I'm talking about, this one is my favorite. The texture is just gorgeous, and you guys know I love a wet eyeshadow. Bravo to this shade. And the last formula that I want to talk about are these. You can see that they're more of kind of like a flecked pressed formula. They have a base pigment and then these little flecks of other shades within them. Very beautiful. And these are a little bit creamier. They feel more like a traditional powder eyeshadow with more of a light to medium weight. They're not uber creamy the way that the shade To the Moon and Back would be, or the shade Choc, but they're not as thin as the shade Choco Excess. They're just kind of in the middle. These are really beautiful if you appreciate more of that kind of sparkly, flecked, scattered light formula. They're very pretty as like a topper, as an addition to an eye look. These I don't think are great as like a one and done eyeshadow. I really like incorporating these into a look. So again, I took a little bit of this shade First Light and added it right to the middle of the eyes. Not that I think it really needed it, but I wanted to use these in as many ways as I could with you guys. Funny enough, I feel like the shade Demanding is actually the one that has really caught my eye. This shade really reflects, and the way it looks on the eyes reminds me quite a bit of the Rowan shadows. It has just this gorgeous, grungy look to it. It's not as thick or flecked or creamy as the Rowan shadows, but the look is pretty freaking beautiful. Kind of picked this one up on a whim because I wanted to have another shade for all of you warm toned lovers out there. I know not all of you are obsessed with like the taupes, but it's honestly become a favorite of mine. Lasting power on all of these is just a little bit different depending on what shade you have. I find that the shade that lasts the least long is the shade First Light, just because when I used this just like all over my lid with nothing else, I did notice like this has a little bit of fallout. I think this formula, you know, is best paired with other eyeshadows. This creamier formula that To the Moon and Back and Choc have, I think that this one definitely lasts the longer just because of pigment. This has the most rich pigment. They're not like insanely crease resistant or particularly long wearing, but they have a good solid wear. Something else to note about the packaging, I actually noticed this. This shade Choco Excess is the only one with a black top. They must have changed the packaging to this silver one or vice versa. But anyway, something that I like about all of the packaging is that at the bottom, you can take them out. Isn't that great? I know I seem like a little bit too excited about that, but you can take all of these out and just put them in a pan if you don't want to deal with the packaging like this. I do like to keep packaging like this for travel or just to, you know, quickly take something like this out of the drawer, put it on the eyes, put it back. I'm really a fan of having that option, whether I want to keep it in here or, you know, take it out the rear. it's very easy. I have my eye on some other shades. You guys are definitely going to be hearing me talk more about these. You guys know that on my channel, I talk about a lot of luxury. I talk about a lot of affordable products, but I don't recommend products for the sole purpose of them being affordable, because I do feel like it's counterintuitive to recommend products that I don't truly love just because they're affordable. We'll leave a link down below to these eyeshadows. If you do want to support my channel, you can use that link. It certainly makes it possible for me to be here and to try out products for you guys, so I very much appreciate it. And before I go, if there's any other shades you guys want me to try, let me know, because I am certainly a fan now. Thank you guys, as always, so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.